Okay, I'd like to bring the Tuesday, July 26, 2022 meeting to order, please. Can we have roll call? Abby?
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest?
Yep.
And Councilmember White?
Yes.
Council President Roeder and Mayor Purcell are absent. We do have a quorum.
Sheriff Norris, would you do the pledge, start the Pledge of Allegiance for us?
Please stand, face the great flag of our great country, and repeat after me. I do pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Do we have any additions or corrections to the consent calendar? Hearing none. We have a motion to
You want to read it?
approve?
Do you want to read them first?
Pardon me?
Do you want to read them all?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't done this for a while, so I'm trying to move things along too fast. So anyway, all right, consent calendar. Item A, approval of June 28th, 2022 City Council meeting minutes. Approval of B, approval of June 30th, 2022 City Council workshop meetings minutes. Item C, approval of July 12th, 2022 City Council workshop minutes. Item D, approval of July 12th, 2022 City Council meeting minutes. Item E, approval of Davidson land acquisition documents for Ramsey Road extension. Item F, approval of Barrick land acquisition documents for Ramsey Road extension. Item G, approval of Hayden Lake Area number 4080, Fraternal Order of Eagles land acquisition. Documents for Ramsey Road extension. Item H, approval of Lobley Development LLC land acquisition, documents for Ramsey Road extension. Item I, approval of fiscal year 2022 third quarter treasurer's statement. Item J, approval of fiscal year 2021 fourth quarter treasurer's statement. And item K, approval of bills for payment. Any discussion? Any questions? Hearing none, can we have a...
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I didn't
I'm
speak
sorry.
fast enough, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, I just want to, I did have some questions about the road extensions and the statements and the bills, but Sandy and Brett answered those for me earlier. I did have a concern with one item on the Lake City Law invoice, and I was just wondering about the one that's from June 23rd for $128 that was about email exchanges regarding misinformation being provided to the public by the Kootenai County Spectator website and provide suggested response. I was just wondering what that was about.
An answer.
Do you want to answer in the?
Well, I think there were some questions about, because I think we were down in Boise during this, and there were questions about whether or not the comments were made, whether or not they were accurate, and whether or not we should correct them, and whether or not the city should be responding to those issues. So it was brought to the city's attention that there might be some information that was inaccurate, and so that's what it was for.
Okay, so is this is like a blogger or something, so is it kind of something online? Like,
It was online, yeah. It was an online comment.
and did anything come from that?
No, I think there were comments that were made on there to try and correct that, but I don't think there was anything else that, like, we didn't put out an official statement on there or anything.
Okay, I was just wondering about that. Thank you very much for answering that.
Ed, do you have anything?
Nope, I'll make a motion if you're looking for one.
Yep.
I would motion to approve the consent calendar items A through K.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please, Abby.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember DeFreeze?
Yes.
Okay, item 2, visitor public comment on non-agenda items. Abby, have we gotten anything? So I assume nobody wants to comment? So, okay. We'll move on to number 3A, presentation of fiscal year 2021 audit by Anderson Brothers CPAs.
Tony Hockwith is here with Anderson Brothers to give this presentation. She's been doing our audit for the last few years, and appreciate her time. And so,
Can you give us your name, please, and
Yes.
all that good stuff?
Yes. My name is Tony Hackwith. I'm with Anderson Brothers CPAs in Post Falls. And we did the financial statement audit for the city of Hayden for your fiscal year ending September 30th, 2021. I believe that all of you have received a copy of the financial statement, the audited financial statement. I'm not going to go page by page of this 50-some page document. Rather, I typically will just kind of highlight items in the audit. And of course, if you have specific questions, stop me and I'll be happy to answer those. I did want to kind of explain what a financial statement audit is, since there are a couple new council members. The state of Idaho requires you to have a financial statement audit each year. And what we do is we come in and we test items on your financial statement to make sure that they're materially correct. So the cash that they say that you have in the bank, we test to make sure that that cash actually exists. Liabilities that you owe to individuals, we make sure that those are true and accurate liabilities and such. We don't look at every transaction. We do testing, sampling, and of that nature. So procedures that we do, though, are extensive enough for us to feel that we can issue opinion that your financial statements are materially correct. So, okay. So as a result of our audit, we issued 3 different reports. One is on page 1 and 2, that is the report overall of your financial statements. And we issued what's called an unmodified opinion. It's also referred to as a clean opinion, meaning that we feel that your financial statements are materially correct. We didn't have any areas that we felt were not materially correct. And we don't say absolute because then again, we don't test every single transaction. So. Then on page 49 and 50, there is a report over financial reporting, internal control over financial reporting. And in that report, we do look at your internal controls in the city, make sure that as far as financially laws and statutes that you're filing your 941 reports, PERSI, things like that, and then we issue opinion. We did have a finding just over the internal controls. There was payments that were made by Harsby that were the city's portion in years prior that Harsby had not provided you invoices for several years. So that was booked and paid this year, but it should have been reflected, that liability, in your previous financial statements. And so we had to post a correction for that. And so we did have to, since it was material to financial statement, include it in that report. So, and that's at the back of the page 49 and 50. So then this year, you also had to have, we had to perform some more procedures. Since you received over $750,000 in federal funds, you're required to also have what's called a single audit, where we test compliance over those funds that you received. So the federal government requires that you have a single audit if you spend more than $750,000. So we performed that audit, and we did not have any findings in relation to your federal funds.
Tony, just clarification.
Sure.
When you said Harsby, did you mean the Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board? Is that what that was?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's right. So we say HARS, but I didn't want them to be
Okay, yeah,
confused with
Hayden
HARS.
Area Regional Sewer Board, and it was for the wastewater treatment plant.
It was for the Phase 2 bills when they first sent those to us. They had held them until they needed a reimbursement, and then they gave them all to us at once, and some of the bills were back from prior years, so.
First, I'm going to talk a little bit about your general fund, and that's your general operating fund of the city. I go over some highlights this year compared to prior years, show you a couple graphs. Again, I'm not going to flip through your financial statement package. So your general fund financial highlights, your revenues over expenditures this last year were $3 million. The prior year was 1.4 million of revenues over expenditures. And a lot of that was, the sales tax was 293,000 higher, the revenues that you received from the state. Highway distribution revenues were 234,000 higher. You did have COVID-related grants, so your grant revenues were 775,000 higher. And your license and permits were higher due to the growth in the city, so they were 196,000 higher than the prior year. Your expenditures were pretty consistent with the previous year. They came in at actually $38,000 less in this last fiscal year. This graph shows you over the last 5 years where you've been as far as revenues and expenses. Pretty consistent in your expenditures. You can see in 2020 and 2021 again. 20 related to some of the grants and growth, and then of course the 21 is what I just referred to in the last slide. Now this is your revenues over your expenses generate amounts that roll into what's called your fund balance. And this graph shows you where your fund balance has been over the last several years. And your fund balance in this last year, the 8.7 million, was a direct result of those additional revenues that you received. So that was the big jump there. The red items, those are non-spendable items, and then the yellow bar right there, those are restricted funds. So those are your impact fees, and mostly your impact fees that are restricted for specific purposes that you just don't have general. Can't spend on just general expenditures. The green is called your unassigned. So those are amounts that you have for general expenditures and such. So a lot of times the question comes up about fund balance and why do governments, cities, counties need a fund balance? And one of the main reasons is that your revenue streams are not consistent month to month. You receive property taxes in a couple lump sums, and then the highway user sales tax you receive 4 times a year. So you need to have a fund balance to continue to pay your bills and your employees. If there was an unexpected emergency, having a fund balance is necessary. In times when federal funding or state funding is lower or held back, the fund balance is a reserve to use. And also, if you, it helps you so you don't have to go out and borrow money and pay interest for capital assets and things of the sort. But if you do have to go out to borrow, a fund balance help you get a lower credit rating or lower interest rate. So, and it just helps ensure your financial stability. The Government Finance Officers Association, at a minimum, suggests that governments maintain in the unassigned fund balance at least 2 months of general operating revenues or 2 months of general operating expenditures. And this is a minimum, bare minimum. And there's no set rule of thumb for every government because every government has different needs. You know, if you have infrastructure that needs updating and things of that sort. So there isn't a set amount that this is where you should be. But the GFOA says no less than these amounts. So this is a graph of the last 5 years of where your general fund has been as far as days operating revenues. Again, the GFOA recommends no less than 60, but there again, it just depends on the needs of the city. And so you can see that this, at September 30th, 2021, that you had 420 days. And that can be timing too. Right now, you might have, 350 days. So that's just at one point in time. These show your days operating expenditures in your general fund unassigned. So again, at September 30th, 2021, you had more in your general fund balance than in the previous year. Any questions on the general fund? I'm going to move over to your sewer fund. So your sewer fund is called a proprietary fund, and generally speaking, the revenues should cover the expenses with user fees and such. But since you have a different operation here with yours being involved with Harsby and things of that nature, and the money that you spend to help them upgrade doesn't become a capital asset of yours. It's just an overall expense. So your proprietary sewer fund looks a lot different than many of the other cities and such because of that arrangement. So you had a net operating loss in the current year in the sewer fund of $516,000. Your operating revenues had an increase of $2 million or 28% compared to the prior year. You did have an increase in your rate last year of 7%, so that helped with the revenue increase. Your operating expenses increased by $3.8 million, and that 49% increase compared to 2020. And the biggest increase there was $3.1 million for your wastewater treatment plant. So that's what pretty much stemmed or created your operating loss. And this is the sewer fund, your operating revenues and expenses over the last 5 years. Again, the last 17 to 20 are fairly consistent. And then 2021, you had growth, you had rate increase, so your revenues went up, and then the 7.77 million, that wastewater treatment plant project contributed to the higher expenses. And that is all that I have for you this evening. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have over the financial statement audit, what it is, what it isn't, and any of the financial reports that you have.
I have some questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. You did a really fine job. Thank you. I couldn't hear, how long has your firm been doing Hayden's reports?
4 years?
4 years?
I think 4 years.
Okay. So one thing that caught my attention was just the very first page where there was, it says the most sensitive disclosures affecting the financial statements was, and then you have 3 things listed: the long-term debt, pension plans, and the urban renewal agency. Could you elaborate on those just a little bit?
Where are you at?
I'm on I think it's a cover page that we have. It's the
Could be.
very first page.
Is it the communication with governance?
It's the letter. Yeah, it's this one here.
Oh. So those, yeah, I don't have that with me, but do you want to
Okay.
read me your question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you would elaborate on those 3 items. The first one was disclosure of long-term debt, as the city has over $9.8 million in outstanding long-term liabilities.
Okay, so that letter is a required letter that we have to provide to governance.
Okay.
Just going over any significant areas or during the audit. And one of the areas is we have to point out if there are significant disclosures, not meaning significant that they're incorrect or anything of that sort, but these are items that are material to the city, and point your attention to those items, debt being one of them. Can't remember what the other.
The next one was pension plans.
Your Percy pension plan, yeah.
Okay. And then the component unit of the City of Hayden, Hayden Urban Renewal Agency.
Yes, so they're a component unit of yours, so they're rolled up into your financial statement.
Okay.
And so that is just a significant item for the city that you have a component unit. And so we're just pointing out some of the significant areas.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, do you have anything?
Not any real questions, but again, you know, I kind of flipped through. Obviously, I didn't look at every line item, everything like that. But in general, from what you have here and what you've said tonight, it doesn't appear as though you've found anything irregular or anything of importance that the staff needs to address in their methods and or ways of what they do.
No, and part of our procedures, we do test your internal controls and look at what controls that you do have over the revenues, expenses, and all of that such. But there wasn't anything where we felt that you were lacking or needed to increase or change controls over areas. We did have that finding, which related to those past invoices that you didn't even receive till this year, and that being significant, we did have to report that. But again, Sandy brought that, we didn't locate that during the audit. Sandy brought that to our attention when she received that invoice.
That issue has been addressed and corrected if it even still exists, as far as, sounds like they held them and then gave them all.
Right.
Are they now?
Now
consistently-
you're seeing them almost every
Right.
council meeting on the bills.
Right.
On the consent calendar, so.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I don't have any questions.
Okay,
So staff, any? Well, thank you
you're welcome.
very much. Appreciate it. Okay, can we have a motion to approve
Just to
the
accept,
audited
just
financials?
to accept the audit. As,
I would,
because it, I think is the language we've used in the past is to accept the audit.
A motion to accept the
Because we don't change it or,
A motion to accept the audit.
yeah, instead of approve, yeah.
As presented.
I would make that motion to accept the fiscal year 2021 audited financial statements.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call please, Abby.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
And Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to action item B, approval of draft FY 2023 to 2027 capital improvement plan.
So the next two items, we can kind of combine and talk about them together. So we have, as part of the process, we have a capital improvement plan that goes out 5 years that you have, and we attach it to the budget, and it integrates with our expenditures and different line items in the sewer and in the capital side of things. And so it's kind of a, almost like an executive summary of the plans or the projects that we plan for in the next while. But we will want to have you approve the draft capital improvement plan and then hopefully also the draft budget this evening. So we'll pull this up. We need them in that order, but I almost want to talk about the budget. And also, oh, Tony left. I was going to mention, as far as the audit, when you look at the numbers, the amount that we have accumulated over the past 10 years, if you look at, our expenditures, we've tried to keep the expenditures fairly level. We haven't increased in a lot of employees, from the time, that I started, we had 35, 36 full-time employees, and that's where we're at. In this budget year, we are asking for that one parks maintenance worker and an engineering tech to help out. But up until that point, we hadn't really increased. And so you see the general fund staying fairly constant, and you see increases because the economy has been good in, some sales tax, maybe franchise fees. as well as some of the development fees. And so over the years, we've spent that on specific projects. And so that's what we call the one-time money. So we keep a rainy day amount that we've tried to keep around $2.5 million. And then above that is what we look at is for projects. And so when you see the different road projects, like the intersection projects, and we talk about one-time money, each of those projects may be $1.5 million or something like that, but that's meant to get to those 5 big intersections. And so we have, so to speak, been saving up to do some of these big projects. So anyways, I think that's a positive thing for us when you look at that. Not that we're just, squirreling away the money. So I know these numbers, and this is a little bit hard. I'll try and increase this so you can see the numbers a little bit better and move it over. And I won't go through all of these because we went through these in the last workshop. But for the public that is here, you can see some of these different projects that we have on the horizon that I'll point out. The big one is the Ramsey Road Sewer Project, which is part of the H6 lift station. And you can see that we want to move forward we want to get the sewer lines in Ramsey Road before we put the road in. So that's always good planning, is get the sewer in before you get the road, so we don't tear the new road up. So there's some design and land purchase money in here. As you go across, and again, it's so big, as you go across, we try to identify where those funds are coming from. So for example, on the park projects, going back here, you can see, for example, like the Viking South Park, we show using park impact fees. And so we've been collecting, and we have a couple $1 million in park impact fees that we would then go to that fund to do some of these projects. Or when you look at like the H6 force main, the one in blue, that's going to have, we had to do our best guess on this project because we are expecting developers to front end and pay for the project. So you can see developer funding there. Little over $4.5 million on the H6 project. And if you keep going over, or down, you can see construction H6 lift station. That's a part of our system that we look at would be our responsibility. And so we have $2.4 million there that we have attributed to ARPA dollars, and then the rest of what we had committed to for that project. You come back over here and look at sewer capacity. We have Ramsey Road, $469,000. Design road and sewer right-of-way purchase, $200,000, and then H6 lift station design coming out of our sewer cap fees. And our sewer cap fees are paid by either a business or if it's a residential unit, they're paying to buy capacity into our system. And then we get those funds, and then we can put those funds, and then we use that to basically expand the system. And so when you look at expanding the system, it's not existing taxpayers that are paying for expansion of the system. It comes out of those sewer capacity fees. And so that's probably one of the bigger projects. You'll notice some of the road projects that are important that we're looking at, like the Honeysuckle Government Way intersection. So we looked at doing finishing design work on that one. And then when you come down, let's see, get over here. Find it when you come down further. If you can see this blue line right here where the cursor is, there's $700,000 for construction. That's coming, that's a portion out of Hayden Urban Renewal that has a portion of it. Let's see, so got to come back over here. It's hard to see. Anyways, what we have budgeted is about $660,000. There it is right there. Out of ARPA dollars for the Honeysuckle and Government Way project, Honeysuckle and Ramsey project, sorry. Each of those intersections that we talked about, they're broken out in design, construction, and there might be some right-of-way acquisition. And so again, I won't go through all of those, but it lists the next few years of important projects that we've talked about. So Honeysuckle and Ramsey, Hayden and Ramsey, Atlas and Hayden. And then we have two other projects that we're hoping that we can use with urban renewal dollars, which would be Government Way and Honeysuckle and Miles and Government Way. So these are the proposed projects as we look out and the places where we anticipate taking the dollars for those projects. So that's the CIP for the next 5 years. And obviously those change depending on getting design, getting right-of-way. Sometimes it's harder to get right-of-way in a project and it might delay a project. The H6 force main, gravity sewer, and lift station, that whole big project is very complicated and has multiple moving parts and pieces that we continue to work on. But we did our best to put where those costs are and where they would be coming from. Any questions on the capital improvement plan at this point? Again, those numbers are hard to see. I'm sorry.
Do you have any questions?
We've tried to put them on one sheet, so it's hard to pull it there, but we can give you a copy if anybody in the public is interested. And it's meant to show across where the money's coming from, what the projects are, and what they're for, and so that we have a direction and a plan to work towards.
Sandra, did you have any questions?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay.
Brett, one question I have is with your crystal ball, what percentage did you use for inflation in putting these numbers together? Do you remember?
Well, the main ones like the H6 sewer station, do you remember in those meetings what they had put? Had they looked?
I know they built that in. I know
It was a significant amount to get it to like today's dollars because we've had some large increases, but I don't think they went out like 5 years and said they were counting on it somewhat leveling out. They put a 20% cushion in those estimates.
Okay.
And so that's probably what I would count for. So they raised them to today's dollars and then put a 20% contingency in for the, like the H6 lift station and some of the road projects.
Let's hope it doesn't get that bad.
Well, I'm hoping prices will stabilize or drop.
Just a comment, if I may, regarding HERA's contributions to the road projects. It looks like 1.67 in 2023, primarily for the Honeysuckle Government Way Miles, Government Way Corridor, and then all the way down to the bottom, where in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, basically $3.2 million from HERA for, looks like almost all road projects and the like.
Yeah.
I think that's what if we did not get those contributions, that if contribution is correct. If HERA did not participate like that, what is the likelihood that we'd be able to complete these projects?
A lot less. I mean, because we looked at, with our one-time money between $4 and $5 million for these other intersections that we had, those intersections could be, $4 million in of itself. So it would stretch out the time period that we'd have to save more. We'd go for grants. we do all we can to get those projects done.
Right.
But those projects, from our meeting the other day, those projects are ideal infrastructure projects that could help the citizens of Hayden by getting those in on, on the monies that they have. And it will help this corridor, which is if you look at the corridor along Government Way, it's a lot of our commercial and, some light industrial properties
Right.
that would benefit by improving that section. So,
Right.
so yeah, it's a significant, and I think they seem willing to look at doing those projects. So, all right, let's.
So are you ready to move on to the budget?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay.
And we can always go back to the CIP too.
We need to separate it.
Do you want to approve the CIP first, the draft CIP?
If you're ready to approve the draft, and again, I think Roger, you're going to say that. So tonight, what we're asking for is these are drafts, tentative drafts that we would like approved. Then we have to notice it in the paper, and they have specific requirements where we notice twice with a week apart before our public hearing in August, on August 23rd.
23rd.
So.
And once if this tentative budget is approved, we cannot raise the budget, but we can lower it.
Correct.
Okay.
So between now and that public hearing, or at the public hearing, we can lower anything, but we cannot raise it higher than what we published.
And I wanted to thank Sheriff Norris and his staff for providing us numbers for deputies. Appreciate it.
Can we approve these separately? Because I think there needs to be discussion on budget issues separate from the CIP.
Okay, if you would like to do by motion approve
Yeah,
the CIP,
good
that would be
idea.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we have a motion for approval of draft FY 2023-2027 capital improvement plan?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so Abby, roll call.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
And Councilmember White?
Yes.
All right, now we can do the budget.
All right, I've just got a few slides. We've had multiple meetings going through this, but just to kind of give some context and give some highlights to the budget, in case you have questions. This is the process that we've gone through. In red is where we are tonight. We're looking, final draft budget approval, then we'll notice it in the paper, and then we have the public hearing on August 23rd. Prior to that, we go through a process where we have a council retreat, so to speak, and we take priorities from the council on thoughts and things that they want to see in the budget. The departments had also weighed in on like equipment and just high-level things that they need and provided that to you as well. Then they turn in their draft budgets. We meet put a kind of a draft budget together, and then we have a couple workshops with the council on what's in them. And we went through the entire budget with them during those workshops and work sessions, and they had actually really good questions. And it's a lot, I know, for our new council members and our new mayor to go through. And so you may have more questions tonight, and then we culminate with that public hearing. So I've got one page with budget highlights. It's kind of loaded with information about this budget. And any of these we can go through. So the property tax numbers, the county normally would have given us the new construction numbers on Monday, and so yesterday, and we were hoping we were going to be able to put those in, and I don't know all the reasons why, but we did get a letter from what's it?
The assessor's bill.
No,
Yeah.
from the treasurer,
Not the treasurer, from it's the
county clerk.
The county clerk.
Bannon?
Jim Brandon?
Brandon, sorry,
Brandon.
Jim. I know your name. Anyways, and he said that they've been unable to get those numbers. And so what we did was we raised the new construction numbers up just a little bit, I think by $20,000 approximately, just in case those new construction numbers come in high. at our next meeting, we will lower it to whatever numbers we get to the county. So whatever they give us, we will lower to that, but we just couldn't raise it. And so that's why you see those new construction numbers. And then the 3% represents $53,326 for the city. And to give you, I'm going to go ahead to a slide just to give the public an idea of kind of what we're facing with our 3%. When you take a property tax comparison, again from 21, you look at our approximation, that's slightly different because I did this a month or so ago. And you look at the other major cities in the area, Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Rathdrum, Sandpoint, the amount that their 3% represents is significant. I mean, Coeur d'Alene, obviously, they're a much larger city. Post Falls, almost 400,000. Rathdrum, which has been almost half our size, gets about 96,000 in 3%, and Sandpoint 140,000, which Sandpoint's less than half our size. And I did an exercise once, even if I dropped in more dollars, like if we had a police department with 22 people and took out, I think it was around $2.5 million or something like that, we were still low in our tax levy amount in comparison to the others significantly. And so that's why I think for at least like the last 20 years, the council, because our levy rate has been so low, has taken the 3%. Because if we would just continue to fall further behind. And if you were to look at in some years, you know, if we do, like the medical benefit increase that we saw this year is probably around 75 to 80,000 increase. That's not the norm, but this year that's what happened, and that's already, you know, below this increase. Or if we were to give the employees a raise, then you're already above that. Fuel costs went up, already above that, or increase in some of these other projects that we want to do. And so when you look at what it means to a taxpayer, we ran this, and again, these numbers are old, but the concept is correct. So the last taxable value that we received for the city, there's a little over $2 billion in taxable valuation or assessed valuation. It's gone up significantly. We all know this year we haven't received those numbers from the county yet, but from last year's numbers, if you take the 53,326, the amount per 1,000 valuation, you can look at a house that is about $500,000. It'd be 600,000 plus your 100,000 exemption. They are paying approximately $445 to the city for their city property taxes. Now, when you get your property tax bill, you probably have like 11 different entities that are on there that you're paying taxes to. The city is just one of those 11. There are 4 entities ahead of the city, and we provide the most direct services to our citizens, and we're 4th on that list. And so you have the counties ahead of us, the fire districts ahead of us, the school districts ahead of us, as far as the taxation that they receive. And so the amount, the 3%, roughly, again, this is just trying to put these numbers together, the amount that 3% represents to a house that's about $500,000 is about $13. And I also wanted to show on here, people get concerned that they have a new assessed value to their house, and a lot of people received a much higher assessed valuation. Well, what happens is that doesn't automatically increase your taxes. What it does is it lowers the levy rate, because we can only, as far as property tax, we take last year's budgeted property tax, and state law only allows us to increase up to 3% on that, plus new construction. And so even if your assessed valuations went up, hugely, that doesn't mean the taxes will go up based on some huge percentage. So that's why I go back, for the city of Hayden, you have multiple legs to the stool as far as the revenues to receive. And sales tax is one of them, and they're up this year. And basically what we've been doing is if it goes up, we've basically utilized it to purchase equipment that is needed or to put away for projects. And so our philosophy when we get together is we do not want to, we look at what our steady revenues and expenditures are and what we think is going to happen, and we don't want to spend over that. The money that is the other, we call it one-time money, meaning you don't want to get tied up into adding 5 new people and then have sales tax drop next year or our other revenues drop. And then we're stuck with that higher increase. And so that's a little bit our philosophy as far as our budgeting. So I'll go back. I just wanted to give you a perception as far as the property tax. And so that's why we had recommended we should take the 3%. And if another city, if you hear, Coeur d'Alene or Rathdrum, and they say, okay, we're only going to take 2%, we're still way under what their amount would be. So you can see some of the other increases. We have a situation where we have a high inflation. We are competing with other areas as far as our people. The council was, and we appreciate this, good with putting a 5% COLA in. I think the latest I saw was 9.3% inflation rate. So we're still below what inflation has been. We did add in approximately 10% for fuel costs. Hopefully those will stay. We've kind of seen them stabilize, but I'm hoping they'll drop. We added those 2 positions, full-time parks maintenance and engineering tech. We did on the parks maintenance, for us to be able to pay for that, we reduced the seasonal down by a little over $20,000 to help cover the cost of that new position. And so it wasn't nearly increased. So we basically moved somebody that was seasonal to full-time, but we took the amount off of the seasonal area. ARPA money. We've received all of our tranches now, so 3.3 million is what we have in this budget, and the CIP, what it reflects is about 860,000 for general fund and roads, and the other is 2.44 in sewer. Now, part of this is if you think back when the ARPA money came out, there was 3 areas that you could use the money: water, technology, and sewer. And that was it. And so we had said, okay, we've got some sewer projects. Let's put it in sewer. And so we began work on and trying to catch up with our sewer lift station. And so that's why there's a significant amount in the sewer. Since then, the federal government changed the rules and opened up so there's more flexibility in spending those. And that's when we shifted. We actually had talked about doing a road project with sewer. But anyways, we shifted a chunk of money over to do the road project. And I think we threw out to help with the Honeysuckle and Ramsey. And then also we received an increase in road money. And we put that increase directly, I think almost all of it directly into our chip seal program. So it was $525,000 last year, and we need to keep that up. And so that was increased, and we just increased that budget line item by that around $100,000. I think it was maybe off just a little bit, but that allows us to do more roads for the year in getting chip seal. And I will say, even with that amount, we're falling behind somewhat. Alan said this is much better. We can get some significant projects done, but we're still not funding completely our road programs. Snow plowing, slight increase. And then I threw in some of the other major projects. Second payment to Lakes Highway District. As you recall, we're purchasing their buildings. It's almost $800,000 for that. I think it's 783. And we have, this year, we will be paying the first payment, and then we had budgeted in next year for the second payment to be done with that. And then we will have paid cash for and purchased the buildings on Ramsey Road where Lakes Highway District buildings are now. And then we would move our public works facilities up to the Lakes Highway District facilities that would fit us fairly well. So that's another savings for our taxpayers, a significant savings, because if we were to build those same facilities, if you've seen the Lakes Highway District facilities, you're looking at least $5 million, probably more, with everything that's there. Upstairs remodel, we're not ADA compliant. We need to get an elevator in this building, and so the upstairs remodel includes attaching an elevator to the outside and just redoing the front area a little bit, having a better meeting room up front. And then also a water truck was another major capital purchase item. Again, those items we budgeted out of the one-time money to get these projects done. Let's see. We included in the budget the operations and maintenance increase for the sewer. That's what that is. According to what FCS, which is our financial folks that have helped us put that together, and we'll be having at our next meeting a hearing on those increases. We basically had a 5-year plan. We basically would be in our 4th year asking for that increase that was recommended. So you'll hear the reasons for that. We had in there the increase to the sheriff, the $300,000 that the sheriff asked for, and the capital improvement plan, which we went through. And so the last thing is just to look at approving. But I wanted to give you some highlights, and for the public that hasn't been part of it, these are the highlights. And I also, I know we had some discussion about the sheriff department and their request, and so we have, appreciate Sheriff Bob Norris is here tonight. We appreciate the county and what they do for us. If you have any questions, or do you want to take, is it okay if Sheriff Norris comes up, and yeah, he might have some comments on what they're requesting.
Good evening, council members. Pleasure to be here tonight. Pleasure to be your police department. I did give the clerk some information. I went to the commissioners and several months ago, and I said that the model for law enforcement can't be sustained here in the city of Hayden, and our call level and our activity level, and we need to get them to a particular point. And I said that we do need to add 3 deputies this year for the city of Hayden. There's many locations now in the city of Hayden, as you know, that I can't send a 1-person deputy to. This is not a community of 3,000 people anymore. So just on a side note, as you're going through your public works improvements, I've done this for about 32 years, and I go to the city of Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls, and really where your public works budget is really where your law enforcement budget should be. Generally, in budgets here in Kootenai County, your law enforcement budget is your largest portion of your city budget. And so even though with these 3 deputies, the costs are going to be about $545,000, I'm seeking $300,000 from you to keep going in the right direction.
Okay. Sheriff Norris, again, appreciate you being here tonight, and I think all along we've had several discussions, and I agree that we need to upgrade the service that the Sheriff's Department is able to provide and the funding for it. But a couple things are concerning me with regards to this. In the budget, if I'm not mistaken, this $300,000 this year is one-time money. Okay. if the $300,000 is not available next year, what happens? First of all, I guess, back up. What is your intention with the $300,000 this year?
We need to add 3 deputies here in the city of Hayden, and those monies will be dedicated to those 3 deputies here in the city of Hayden. I recently had a meeting with ICRIMP, and ICRIMP has said that Hayden is very much a drain on our services everywhere else in the county. It's the reason why we put so many miles on our vehicles. We have assisting units that are constantly coming into the city of Hayden to assist. I can't send a one-person deputy to many calls for service. Before big box stores were here and before alcohol establishments were here, when there was a population of about 3,000, I could probably do that. But that's not the case anymore. And as you know, Hayden is the 16th largest city in the state of Idaho. So this increase, law enforcement should be your public works budget. When I hear these, if you go to any other city council meeting here within Kootenai County, you'll find that law enforcement is your largest portion of any budget. So this one time, we're going to need this next year. Now, if for some reason it cannot be put in the budget for next year, I mean, those deputies aren't going to be laid off. I mean, I'm doing pretty good in patrol as far as personnel, and contracts come first, but nobody's going to lose their job because, we don't continue this contract. So.
Well, that's my economic downturn.
Right.
Who
right,
knows
sure.
what? And hopefully not. But if the situation arose where we said, hey, we don't have that 300K this year, and you've hired these,
Right. Yeah. No. Generally, I have a few vacancies where I can, plug them in and what have you.
Right. And something else here, and I was looking at it, the contract city report, City of Hayden, June 2022. And I was looking at the activities and being I get in trouble whenever I say this, the anal retentive type of person that I am, I kind of, I average things out. And for law enforcement calls, the month of June was 1,088, which is an average of 36.27 per day, which is 1.5 per hour. And I understand that, well, the midnight to what I understand that sometimes it's, condensed into small. And I've ridden along and I agree, you can't send one person to a lot of calls, and by no means, please don't take it as though I'm coming at this with, but it's just accidents. Again, for June, there were 20, which is 0.67 per day. Traffic citations, 94, which is 3.1 per day. Total reports, 79, which is 2.6 per day. And arrests, which is 0.6 per day. Those numbers to me just they seem low. They don't seem like that. Well, heck, that's not a whole lot.
I wish they were higher. And if you had, what we're seeing here in the city of Hayden is what we're seeing in some of the larger cities for a different reason. And we don't have that discretionary time to be able to go out there and do proactive law enforcement, to go out there and contact parolees, probationers, and what have you. We want to see in a growing community that your arrests continue to increase and that your citations continue to increase. But if we're running from call to call to call, you're not going to see that. Arrests are down in New York and arrests are down in Los Angeles, but they're for a different reason. There's no public support for law enforcement. Here, we have a lot of public support for law enforcement. So we want our arrests to continue to rise, and we want our citations to continue to rise because we want to reduce traffic collisions that result in injuries. So those aren't particularly good stats because we want them to keep growing.
So is it
in some of them? Now we want our criminal stats to go down, but we want certain proactive strategies to go up.
So is it a likelihood that if we do get if we, the City of Hayden, gets 3 more deputies, those numbers will, you'll be able to be more proactive and those numbers will?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we will be able to coordinate with your city manager on what his strategies are as far as with neighborhood block watches, maybe concentrate on some of the quality of life issues that I get a lot of calls on, and I just frankly say that I just don't have the people in the city of Hayden to be able to even address those quality of life issues.
And one more question, I guess, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, because we've kind of had these discussions, but I think there's a distinct possibility that we may be going to the people.
Yes.
Have you begun pre-planning or thought process of how the sheriff's department is going to engage the public to, for lack of a better term, sell the need?
Yeah, so apparently from what my attorneys have told me, that I can't go out there and proactively support it. I can go out there and educate. However, there are public safety associations that can do that, and they are prepared to do that. And I believe that it would be in the best interest of the residents of the city of Hayden, because they have a level of law enforcement service that they expect, and it's not getting any smaller here in the city of Hayden. And we need to bring up our law enforcement service even to a level right now. If we didn't develop another parcel, we would still need to have quite a bit of increase in law enforcement.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you for coming tonight and talking to us and for all you do. And I just want to say a special thank you to Deputy Cox for being here all of Hayden days. It was just really reassuring to see you walking around and keeping an eye on us. And it was just a really beautiful time. And thank you for helping out like you did.
We're happy to have Deputy Cox as part
Yeah.
of our team. So
Yeah, we really appreciate him. So I think that we have a delicate kind of situation in Hayden where we have certain areas that have more crime than others. But especially along the business corridor and Walmart, but it's also those same areas are in the urban renewal taxing district. So in a way, they're getting more of our property taxes, and then they're returning them to us in the form of helping us with roads. So it's a delicate balancing act. And I think that once the urban renewal district sunsets in 7 years or so, we'll have more property taxes to work with to give towards the sheriff's department. I don't know, is there something you need materially? Like, do you need a building, an outpost, something here, something that urban renewal could build for you or something to help? Like Walmart was.
If I was a city council member or the city manager, and if I had a crystal ball, I would say, hey, why don't we consider doing a joint venture with the county and having a Hayden sheriff substation that the north end of the county can work out of the Hayden substation. And then there would be deputies that are assigned to the Athol and Spirit Lake and Bayview area that would traverse through our community, and we would get some advantage of that. So I believe that there is value for a long-term plan for the city of Hayden to consider a substation.
Okay, like how big would something like that be? Just,
Probably a few $1 million.
I mean, in size, what are you envisioning?
In the corner.
Yeah, I mean, to put a square footage on there, I'd have to get back to you.
Okay.
Just to, yeah.
That might be, the urban renewal district was asking us as a city council what we would like for the city, and maybe something like that would be
Right,
appropriate
yeah.
where we're
Hey,
assisting.
I say you ask. They can only say no, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
One question.
Yes, sir.
One of the county commissioners recently told me that they had help fund for 3 deputies for the city of Hayden. I don't know how much.
Probably referring to this one.
Yeah, is that a one-time thing, or is that going to be ongoing?
So your startup costs for a deputy are much more expensive in the first year because we have training, we have the equipment, we have the vehicle, we have the academy. So your startup costs are much more expensive during that first year. And then it drops down considerably after the first year. So that I'm sure what he was referring to is what the piece of paper that I gave the clerk beforehand.
Yeah.
So your first year deputy is about about $181,000. That's with the vehicle and with the equipment and training and what have you. And then after that, it drops down to almost half.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for being here. Might mention too that you alluded to the fact of perhaps something's going to happen. We have a citizen task force that has been meeting. I think they've met 4 times, and they've been going through the statistics, been looking at our coverage, and I think at the next meeting they may make a recommendation. We've tried to, on a staff level, we've tried to stay out of it and let them talk through it, and as citizens decide what they want to recommend. But I believe they'll probably by motion make a recommendation to the council to do something, and that might take care of things. Something that came out the first time we did it and this time that I think would be very useful is having continuing on, instead of just having the task force, but continuing on and having a public safety commission, and then appointing citizens on that, and they could meet a couple times a year and make recommendations as to what we need as far as our police coverage, and just look at statistics and say, hey, we're doing good, or hey, we need to add another officer or whatever. But we had 15 folks on there, and various experiences with law enforcement, and they've come up with some good ideas. So anyways, that's, and also we have a member of the Sheriff's Department attends that as well. I think that the person has switched to a new role and isn't coming anymore, but we appreciate their help. So with that, those are the highlights. We've gone through those before. Again, this would be the tentative draft budget. Are there any questions or things we need to go through?
Yeah, I have some questions. Okay, so regarding the ARPA money, that money is still on hold. And what process are we going to go through before we decide what to do with it?
So to spend that, we would come back to the council. I foresee with the H6 lift station, with the developers and with the city council, that a financial plan and financial agreement would have to be put together on what our contribution and what it's for, and that would have to come back to the council to expend those dollars. So we've received the money from the federal government, and that's partially why you saw large numbers that went up, as $3 million went into the budget and is there for like one-time projects. But the other amounts, as say we've got Honeysuckle and Ramsey designed to 95%, we need to spend a little bit more. We have to get the right of way. Through that process, we would come back and ask the council to pay for it. We would like to use $700,000 or whatever we end up using of ARPA dollars to help on that project, and then the council could approve that. As part of this, we saved an additional $100,000 for a project unknown, that the council, like if you had a project that you wanted to do, whether it was in a park or somewhere else, you could be thinking about that. So it's in the budget as ARPA funds, but not to be spent. And so that's how we set it up. We have, for the last couple years with these developers, as we looked at the LID for the H6 lift station, and then as we've moved from that to financing, having them finance and then us contributing, we have said that we have so much in cap fees, and that we have talked about ARPA fees, using that And we have stated that that's up to the council to decide, but we've been telling them our portion would be, of the project would be about $4 to $4.5 million. And so if that changes, that just kind of, the work that we've been working towards we'd have to step back and redo and figure out how to do that. So that's where we're at, but any expenditure, and answer your question, would have to come back to the council.
Okay. One more question. I wanted to go back to the 3%
Yes.
in the top one. So if 3% is 53,000 or 52,000, then 1% is about 18,000,
Yeah,
right?
I think it was 17.
Right.
Something. Yeah.
So I was wondering, I would like us to talk about reducing the 3% to 2% because $18,000, I think we can put that in the budget somewhere, find a place where that could come out. I just think that the citizens of Hayden have been through a lot with tax increases and just so much coming at them that this would be a good faith gesture to show them that we're also tightening the belt too, and that we, that we are also doing all we can in this time of hardship. So this is something that I would like the council to discuss, please.
And just before the meeting, I put together a very rough number. I didn't even get Sandy to look at it, just, the effect, because I'd heard maybe if we didn't take 1%, whatever. And so this isn't a pretty, it's just a quick Excel. Kind of the effect over a 10-year period of time. And that amount goes into a foregone fund. But if you didn't, this represents 1%, and then the 3% on the 1% then accumulates. And so over a 10-year period, you're talking about a reduction of $227,000 used for something.
So I was just wondering along that line, this is very helpful. I should have asked you for something like this sooner. I was just wondering where along the line does the urban renewal district sunset? Because that,
29,
okay,
2029.
okay.
And keep in mind, if that sunsets, all of the dollars that are going to HERA, only the city's portion comes back to us.
Right.
All the other dollars go back to those districts,
Right.
whether it's county or whatever. And so we lose the increase in urban renewal, meaning it's about 4 to 5 times what we would have had. So anyways, I did that real quick just as I
Thank you.
heard that. And then if you take, if you just roughly took that, it would be $9 and something. If we took off the 1%, I believe it'd be around $9, and then divided by 12, so it'd be some, I don't know,
$4 a year.
is what you figured? Okay.
So reduction would equal $4 a year.
That's how much it would reduce their taxes.
So anyways, but that is, I think, as I mentioned, I don't think since we took it that the council has not taken 3% just because we are so low and further behind. So, but that is up to the council to decide. Anyways, those are the slides, the information that we have. Any other questions? Yeah.
You have any questions?
Here, yeah, a couple of them here. That slide you just showed, after 10 years, I think was 227,000 and foregone.
Yeah.
Isn't there a limitation on the percentage of how much of that you can use if and when you need to use it? Like each year, whatever you have, you can only use so much of it. You can't use the whole pot.
I think what passed, and you can correct me, it was, Bob's shaking his head. What I saw was you had to, Katie might know, I thought you could use it all, but you had to, by motion, approve it before at the beginning of the budget year, so you knew you were going to be taking the foregone. You had to formalize it as part of your budget process by motion or resolution. I couldn't remember, but that you could take your foregone. And I think
You can take it all at once.
I
if you need
thought
it.
so, because there were iterations where the legislature was trying to do things where you couldn't take any of it. And then it was, well, a percentage reduction, but what I remember came out of the legislation was you just had to state, you had to by motion or, so I could be wrong on that, but that's what I recollect from that change in legislation.
And I'd have to check on that for you.
Okay.
So, and we could let you know by the next meeting.
And does that impact our overall percentage that we're allowed now to take? Does the foregone figure into the 8% that we're allowed total?
I think it does.
Yeah.
I think that's where the
There's still-
restriction would be.
Right, that's
That's
kind
where the
of, I've been
restriction.
hearing, and again, this is kind of what, because it sounds a little complicated and somewhat maybe even up in the air, it sounds like. And so that was kind of what I'm trying to gather some information on.
So what she's talking about is, so it was last year's legislation.
Yes.
On the side, they passed and said you couldn't take, well, it mentions the new construction, you could only take 90% of the new construction. And then also you couldn't take more than 8%. So if you're 3% and your new construction were more than 8%, you were restricted to the 8%. And ours was low, and our 3% is so low, we didn't get close, we're not close to the 8%, even with our new construction, if that makes sense. So,
As well as Council Member White says she wanted to have discussion on this, and I my ears are always open. For any suggestions, is that $18,000, do you have any examples or wherever where you think that we could start?
Well, yeah, I think we can, if we look overall, there's, let's see, I didn't bring that paper with me, but I had an idea. So I was thinking from the 3 largest budget areas, take 6,000 each from those 3 budget areas. So there was a pie chart, it was in a previous discussion.
On expenditures?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it was budget, the budget. It was a circle pie chart showing all of the budgets.
And so the 3 highest just
The
take
3
6.
highest. So one was 30% goes to, if we could take 6,000 out of there, 6,000 out of another one, 4,000 out of another, 2 out of another. I think we can easily spread that out.
I think that would need to be a discussion, because I'll say it, to be quite honest, I think the staff does a great job with what we have and with what we have to work with. And, especially with the inflation and the times we're in and everything else. And then if you want to put that slide up again of our rates compared to the other cities and the like, I mean, for I don't know how many years now since the decision was made to initiate such a low rate, which has it's a compounding effect, and we can't keep up because of the base where it started. Really, I find it very difficult to look at define. I can look at them, but to find areas where you could really rationalize, cutting when the need is so great. So, but I'm more than willing to have that discussion and look at numbers.
Yes. Yeah, and I think even having fewer studies done is going to help too, because we just spent $30,000 in Honeysuckle Beach study, things like that. I think we just need to be more careful where we spend money too, because that affects the people also.
I think we took half of that out of the boat launch money, which isn't tax money, and then we took part of it from general fund, but
Yeah.
from our one-time money.
Do you have any
So,
more questions?
I did, they got copies of what you were going to publish,
Yes.
right? So, and you can decide what we were after tonight, and if you decide you wanted to reduce it by the percent, we can do it at the next meeting, or if you decide you want to do it, I guess we'd have to try and figure out what that would be. But what we were looking for was approval of this tentative budget outline. This is what would go in the paper, and then we notice this, and then we have the public hearing on the 23rd.
So
Again,
Brett,
you
my
could lower
turn.
it. Lower, but you can't raise it. Yes.
My turn. I applaud staff and you for your optimism in putting together this budget, and I've been involved, this is my 15th or 14th budget, and I remember when I first came in, I had all these ideas on how we're going to cut the budget and we're going to make things better. And, you know, the 3% that we take in a lot of cases doesn't even cover the raises or the increase in medical that we have. And I think that what you're proposing for an increase in fuel costs, my opinion is very low. That's about a week, maybe 2 weeks of snow plowing if we get a hard winter. One of the other things is the last sewer board meeting, we had a discussion on a contingency fund because our Ken, who runs the wastewater treatment plant, is very concerned that the price of chemicals to treat the water are going to skyrocket. So Brett and I haven't had a chance to discuss that any further, and we'd certainly come to council with anything that we would propose. You know, I think the medical, a 12.5% increase. Wow, I've seen a lot higher than that. I think that's pretty good. It's a little high, but it's pretty good.
On that note, the reason why it's high is they spent $4 million on COVID-related, so that shouldn't continue. But they had, on our pool, we had hospitalizations and all of that they had a $4 million hit that they weren't expecting. So that's why, but they don't expect that to continue.
Well, and I think that, you know, along with all the fuel costs, the cost of oil, the cost of tires, you know, we fought long and hard to get out of 1970s equipment for the road department and stuff. And I really don't want to see us go back on that because the amount of money we've saved in efficiency alone by creating that equipment plan is, you know, I've never asked Sandy or anybody to put a number to it, but I know it's astronomical what we would have there. And I think, you know, I agree with that. I think it's certainly worth the discussion, Sandra, on this. I mean, because maybe there's something I'm not seeing, but I just see if we don't take the 3%, it's a huge step backwards. You look at our roads, our transportation plan, that is so woefully underfunded for the future. And quite honestly, for the $4 it would save me in my taxes, I want to make sure I have good roads and the snow gets plowed in front of my house. So that's where I'm coming from now. But again, I'm, you know, maybe there's something I'm just not seeing, and I welcome, you know, anything to save the taxpayer money. I'm not going to argue with. So anyway.
Well, if you decide, I mean, I know we have a council member missing and a mayor missing from this discussion. If you would want to approve with it as is and then have that discussion and then after the hearing lower it, you can. I would just, again, it's hard for me. We could find $18,000, you know, to cut from this budget, but, and you want to be careful when you look at these projects or, you know, these increases, a lot of this is one-time money, that if sales tax, road dollars go down, which we saw happen back 08, 09, and 10, and you've limited your property tax, you've lowered the trajectory. All these other cities, if you graph it, it's exponential. Their property tax are like this, and ours is flatter. And the one that concerns me is Sheriff's Department and their requests, because those will be continual requests that we don't have the money for now. And so I look to, we need to be probably putting more in for the Sheriff's Department. And if the citizens are asked to pay, they might say, well, why did you not take your 3%, or I don't know, but I just, that's probably one of the biggest concerns I have is an ongoing cost that the citizens might ask for is we want more police coverage. And we don't have the funds on a continual basis to cover that.
Well, I think that's a good point. We've gone to the taxpayers twice to ask for increases in their taxes to support more law enforcement, and they've said no twice. From my point of view, it's hard to go back to them and ask them a third time when they've already said no twice. But we really don't have an alternative because we don't have enough money to support what we need. And we need it. I mean, I know Sheriff Norris is going to think of us first when we run out of money, but that's something for discussion in the future. So anyway,
All right.
thanks.
Well, I
Brett.
appreciate the sentiment, because I think all of us, on a staff level as well as the mayor and council, we try to operate conservatively and or try to be careful with our dollars. And we hope that the citizens see that. And anyways, that's all I had for tonight.
So, any further discussion? We have a motion to approve or not approve the tentative fiscal year 2023 budget.
I would motion to approve the tentative adoption of the fiscal year 2023 budget.
And I'll second it. Abby, roll call, please.
I would like
Oh, I'm
to,
sorry.
I would like to amend the motion
Okay.
to change the 3% increase to a 2% increase in the property tax levy rate.
Let's see, I would, if I can offer this to you, Sandra, is that we can increase the budget if we approve this tonight, but we can decrease it. And when we're missing the mayor and Council President Roeder, we have about a month before the final budget. Would that give us the adequate time for the discussion? Because I don't know that, I don't know how they feel.
Okay. All right. Well, then I withdraw the motion, but I will be voting no on the budget as is because I would like to
Okay.
see that decrease.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have anything further, Ed?
Well, no, I guess along with that amendment, and it's been withdrawn, so it's kind of moot, but that's the thing, we can lower it before we eventually make the final approval.
Thank you.
So there's always that option, but for right now, to move forward, I would stick with my motion.
Thank you.
So roll call, please.
Councilmember White,
No.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
Councilmember DePreez.
Yes.
Okay, Brett, city administrator report.
Okay. Just a couple items. I wanted to start off with this, a big thank you to everybody that helped with Hayden Days. It was a fun time. It really does represent kind of the small town feel. We had more cars at the car show. The parade was fun. We had more vendors in the park. And so Susie and her team really headed up and make that go. And so they did an awesome job. Appreciate it.
A major team effort. There's almost every department in some way is involved in making
Somehow
this
helping.
successful.
Parks helps get things set up and streets helps with everything. And so it is kind of a citywide
Yep.
thing to get it done. But Susie, your team did a great job. And so anyways, appreciate that. It represented the city of Hayden well. Appreciate the sheriff's office was there as well, helping out, keeping us safe. So appreciate that. We wanted to, I put on here, we've got, if you recall, the fire department is requesting to do impact fees. And we have reviewed their documents. I had just a few minor changes, and we wanted to set that for a workshop and include the fire impact fees and then also our impact fees in a workshop setting to go through them with you. We'd like to do that August 9th at 3 p.m.
August 9th?
August 9th. And just do that here. I think the fire portion would go fairly fast, but we want to bring you up to speed on where our impact fee group is. They have some proposed numbers. All of them are increases to our impact fees, but they want to go through the methodology and information with the mayor and council, and then after we want to set it for public hearing on August 23rd, and so have a workshop with you guys on the 9th, and then a public hearing on the 23rd. But this stuff is complicated, and so we thought a workshop would be in order to take a couple hours so you guys could go through it, get your questions asked and answered. So without any, hopefully that'll work for everybody. If you have a concern, let us know on the timing. Wanted to let you know, so this is something that Abby and the Arts Commission has been working on. You look at some of the utility boxes, is it 7, 8, how many? 7, moving forward with wraps on them. And so there's one, I saw just the first ones on Honeysuckle there on the corner, real colorful, look nice, make the city look better. Those are paid for out of $4.
Or is reimbursing the city?
Yeah, so the city's not paying for those, but we've got 7 boxes on Long Government Way that were art projects that people voted on. Anyways, will look nice. So take a look at those. With that, this isn't an action item, but we are working on gathering information about doing a wrap or painting on the water tower. So the Hayden Lake Irrigation District, that's their tower. Whole other issue with that. I've been kind of vocal about I didn't want it there, et cetera, but it's there. They have said we have until September. They've kind of stepped back and said if we want to put a wrap on, that was a new idea to us. A wrap that size, but they said they'll last for many, but when you go to take it out, you don't have to paint it. It doesn't risk having, toxic chemicals around the water. And so they actually like that idea. We're getting the cost estimates to do a wrap, and it might say Hayden or something like that. So I just wanted to make you aware. We just got that information, and before we would do anything, it would come back to you. So if you have any questions or anything outside here, you can talk to me. There is also the option, there was a painter that does paint it, and they do it in a safe way, but we have until September 18th to get it done if we were to do it. Then then they're putting water in, and the ability to put something on it is, at least from the district's perspective, is gone. So, and I'll remind you, we have new council members. We had, it's probably maybe 2 years ago, it came to the council whether or not they wanted to paint the tank, and the council said no. So now we're kind of coming back and saying, do you want to put a wrap on it? It might be cheaper and safer. So throw that out there. And then we begin Music in the Park again this Thursday, 6:30. And those are announced on the thing. So that's all I have tonight. So
Okay.
Ben Klein.
Staff, do you have anything?
Staff, go ahead.
Andrew has something.
Sandra?
Thank you. Yeah, I was just back in Texas, and their towers have, I took a picture of a few of them, and they're really cool. And it would look really good with our city's logo on it or something. So yeah, I hope it's something we can work out the expense for. And I was just gonna say that, Brett, you were talking about the sewer. Last month when Ken Windrum was here, he was talking about what to flush and not to flush.
Yeah.
And you made door hangers. Have those door hangers gone out yet?
So the door hangers haven't gone out. So this is, so our kind of, we have a three-pronged approach. The newsletters went out, our newsletters went out. Hopefully all the citizens are getting those. In the newsletter, it has a little blurb on fourth page or something on that very issue.
Okay.
We talked with, or emailed the two homeowners associations. And I know that we've received approval for one of them. They are going on their email list and going to send it to all their folks with a copy of a letter that we wrote that Abby actually put together. That's really nice, that talks about and mentions, don't put these things in. If you continue to do that and the pumps are breaking, it will result in increases in costs to our monthly sewer bill. So it ties that in. And so that hopefully will go to Broadmoor and Strawberry Fields. Those were the two main areas. And then we also, Harbs had some door hangers. We did receive the door hangers, and so now we're looking at maybe a volunteer group to take them out.
Yeah, I was going to suggest a volunteer group because I'm one of the precinct committeemen for the area of Hayden, and I could probably find some other folks from Republican Central Committee or something who would help me
Just
do that.
canvas
So,
this
yeah,
little
so
pop them on
I'll
the
try to
door.
recruit people for that.
Yeah, so Abby, we have a stack of them in the office now.
Okay.
And they do the same thing. So that's our three-pronged approach to get the word out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Do you have anything else, Sandra?
No, that's it for me.
Okay, Ed?
Sure. Again, to tag right along, to thank the staff, all the staff, city staff for the Hayden Days. There's a lot of work, and I thought it was a really great job, and everybody, when I was here at least, it was packed and things like that. So again, thank you to everybody, the entire staff for that. I've been spending a lot of time down at Honeysuckle Beach. I'll, cruise around, sit there for a while, watch what's going on and stuff like that, and some observations. And it's really nothing that we don't really know already. But there's a significant number of out-of-state parked cars, boats, etc., and the like. I had a particular instance with a car that was parked, made their own parking space. I guess thought they were special, just pulled up and empty vehicle right there at the east end of the center boat parking. And when the two young men eventually showed up, I said, "Is that a parking place?" And they go, "Oh, no, there was a guy here before us." And then he made the comment, "It doesn't matter, it's not monitored anyway." And I understand we've had several citations written, which is very good. I think we really need to be very strict with that. A couple of days later, I drove through and there were two deputies. There was a car parked in the boat in the center there. And I asked them, "Did you cite them?" And they said, "No, we gave them warnings." And I said, I understand that aspect of it, but this situation is one where I find it very difficult to have any leniency. And I think we should be citing anybody and everybody who violates, because they know. There's no, "Oh, I didn't see that stuff." They're just doing it because I think they believe that they can get away with it. And I think we need to make a very strong effort to say, hey, follow the rules like everybody else. I think I'd like to see the council seriously enter into consideration of parking fees for some structure within that. I know we charge for launch and the like, but to some degree, I think we need to start charging some type of parking fees. It may just in a small way possibly mitigate some of the issues that we have there. And there's been some discussion of potential other mitigating opportunities to deal with the crowding and other issues that are going on down there. So I'd hope that in the future we could continue this discussion as to how to better manage or preserve a pleasant atmosphere down there. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Ed. it was about 5 years ago when we brought up painting or doing wraps on the telephone thing. So it's nice to, well, it takes time. It just takes time, and, the money's got to come from somewhere. Kudos, Alan's not here, but kudos to everybody on the cul-de-sac. I've used
The
it.
traffic roundabout?
Yeah, I'm sorry, cul-de-sac. Anyway,
Yeah, he's on vacation this week, a well-deserved vacation, so.
it's a great deal. I've had comments from people who live outside the city that are very happy with it as well, coming from around the lake and stuff. Hayden Days, what a great event. I particularly enjoyed it this year because I wasn't in the parade. I was with my 3-year-old granddaughter watching the parade. And I guess because I've always been in it, I didn't realize what a great parade it is. I mean, I had fun, my granddaughter had fun, my wife had fun. Just fun, just really nice. So I don't know if I'll ever be in another parade. I'm gonna just watch them all. So one of the things Sandra brought up, some of the problems with the sewer treatment plant. Another problem we were made aware of is there's some things being dumped into the sewer that is not supposed to be. It requires more treatment because it's being dumped into it. We're going to work on that. Brett, we've had, I forget what we call it, where we contact the businesses and stuff, and
Well, it's working on a pre-treat program, and we were able to isolate, there's 5 businesses, and one's a paint shop, and other one's like a staining shop, and anyways, there's some heavy metals that came out during a particular time that we're going to go out and talk with them about what they can and can't put in there. And if it continues, then what it will cost them to.
well, and I think it's important. We probably don't think about it, but at your own home, it's costing you more because it's requiring more treatment. So these few folks are costing us all money and treatment, et cetera. So one of the other things Ed brought up, Honeysuckle Beach. Do we still have that company that goes down there?
Northern
State Security.
State Security, we pay them to go and.
I think
lock things, yeah.
I think we need to have a little sit down with them and discuss. One of the things that was brought to my attention, other than what Ed was talking about, was there's a lot of after hours usage down there. And, I know law enforcement's, I'd rather them going after the bad guys than somebody who is violating the closing of Honeysuckle Beach. But I guess, has this company ever gotten back to us and said, geez, we've kicked some people out after hours?
Yeah, periodically, like if something's open or something's broken, we'll get a report from them. But they're usually just pulling in. They might be locking up a bathroom or something like that. But we haven't received a lot of reports. We'll get a written thing from them, and I don't know do you see them down there ever, or the states? So they go to this facility as well as all the parks and drive around them.
We'll go down there Friday or Saturday night at about 11 to midnight, and there's probably things going on that the city would rather not have going on down there. I don't know what the solution is. I'm just bringing up the situation. So,
Well, as you look at it as a council, you could there are people that need access to it, but one option
does
is
that
you
mean you're
close the park.
Does that mean you're asking me to police it? I can police it, but I don't know that you would approve of how I did it.
Perhaps we should let the professionals do it.
Yeah, okay.
But all those things are on the table. If the council decides you want to close it at 10 o'clock and gate it and have some kind of code that allows those that live back in there still to get in there, that's an option that we can look at.
Okay, with that, I'm done. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So motion.
Seconded.
Motion and second. We're adjourned. Great. Thank you all.
Okay, you were.